Hi, my name is Bruce Anthony Billingsley Jr. This presentation is about my testimony from sickle cell to a cure. During this presentation, I will give you a little bit of information about sickle cell disease, and I'll walk you through my journey and my process of being cured from sickle cell disease. A little bit about sickle cell disease. It is a genetic disease that you get from your parents. Sickle cell is a blood disorder that causes your red blood cells to be half-shaped. Complication of this disease can range from pain crisis, blood clots, strokes, asthma, pneumonia, and acute chest syndrome. This picture shows a regular blood cell versus a blood cell of someone with sickle cell disease. As you can see, the normal red blood cell is a full-shaped circular cell, and sickle cell is half-shaped. And what it does is sometimes with those pain crises, they'll get clogged in your veins, and that's what causes those pain crises and can cause things like blood clots and strokes. My time with sickle cell, I was born on December 26, 1987 at Tanner Medical in Carrollton, Georgia. I was born with sickle cell anemia. My type of sickle cell is considered SS. Both of my parents carried the sickle cell trait. I was the second born child, but my brother was not, he did not get sickle cell. He was not born with sickle cell. The gene usually skips over a generation in a pattern called autosomal recessive inheritance. I lived with sickle cell for the first 16 years of my life, and I frequently suffered from things like chronic pneumonia, acute chest syndrome, gallstones, and jaundice. Here I am at the beginning of my journey. My journey to the cure began with a bone marrow transplant. A bone marrow transplant is when you go through chemotherapy treatment to destroy the unwanted bone marrow to replace it with healthy marrow. These pictures show my first day of chemotherapy treatment. Here I am looking comfortable before things got started. And here I am on the unit of the hospital floor. And here I am before, the chemotherapy really kicks in, because as you can see, I still had hair, and chemotherapy does cause you to lose your hair. A little bit about my donor and about a donor. A donor plays a huge part in the success rate of a bone marrow transplant. Donors are matched to the recipients using their human leukocyte antigen. The closer the match, the higher the success rate, and thankfully my brother was 100% match for me. These pictures show him being prepped for surgery, and as you can see, the nurse is holding up his bone marrow, which they extracted from his back. Here I am on transplant day. My transplant was on July 16, 2004. At 11:26 a.m. I don't remember much about that day, but here's a picture of my favorite nurse, Nurse Dawn, and she was getting my IV started. And I was just, blessed to have a team like I had during the transplant, especially my nurses, because they were just there for the day-to-day process of it, and they just were really, high-spirited and kept me in high spirits as well. As you can see, the times here, the surgery, the transplant lasted about 6 hours, so it was a long ordeal. Some of the trials I went through, there were some scary moments during my time in the hospital. In August of 2004, I had a stroke while in the hospital. During the process of the transplant, I was taking close to 20 different medications a day. That's a lot of medications, and Some of the medications were as big as horse pills. They had to be cut in half. And I had a stroke, and that stroke was a result of side effects from the medications. The doctors had to perform a craniotomy surgery to remove a blood clot out of my brain. The picture shows me after I was released from surgery. So as you can see, this was a scary time. A little bit about my support system. It was very important for me, to have a support system. I was young when I went through this bone marrow transplant. I was 16 years old. And it is one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do. And thankfully, I had a great support system from my church, my school. My parents told me that, people from all over the world were praying for me at the time. My school had fundraisers for me where they raised money for my parents, just to take some ease off the day-to-day things and help with some of the bills. My church raised money for me. This is my youth team right here that came to visit me one day. I was real sick. I didn't really want too many visitors because, you're very vulnerable in that moment, but I was really happy to have them there for me. And it's good to have the support of your friends and family to help you stay positive during a time like that. And here I am, cured. I spent close to 3 months in the hospital during my transplant. It was tough, but I don't regret a moment of it. Today I am sickle cell free and living my life to the fullest. It has been 13 years since my transplant, and at times I do forget that I even went through these trials, and I am thankful that I'm still in great health today. Here are a few pictures of me. That's in the top left, me and my brother at my wedding. Of course, he was my best man. He gave me his blood, so of course he's my best man. In the top right, there's my beautiful wife on our day. And that's me and my family. On the bottom left, at Thanksgiving, just shows you how big my family is. That's just one part of my family, but how, big and loving, and I had all their support during this time. And there I am on the bottom right, my new position as a PE teacher at Park Lane Elementary. That's me, my first field day that I had put on. And just some of the pictures show, how blessed I am. And, it was a tough situation to go through something like that. And it's tough for people who live with sickle cell every day. And, just for me to be able to experience some of these things that I know some patients of sickle cell, don't even live to be this old. And I'm just very fortunate and blessed that, I went through the things that I went through and, it came out really good for me. So, I really hope that you enjoyed this presentation. Maybe you learned a little bit about sickle cell and it inspires you to, maybe research a little bit more about it, or maybe get a little bit more involved in helping people with sickle cell. And it really is a thing where, even though a lot of people have sickle cell, it's still a lot of people that aren't even aware about the bone marrow transplant and that there is a cure for sickle cell. So, it's always good to get awareness out, and hopefully this helps with some awareness when it comes to the bone marrow transplant and the cure for sickle cell disease. So I thank all of you for sharing this time with me, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation.